In a galaxy torn by war and distrust, one friendship defies the boundaries of species, setting the stage for a fight that could alter the fate of an entire world. Marcel, a human regarded as a vicious predator by the Federation, is on the brink of death, held captive by those who see him as nothing more than a monster. But for Veno, a Vena who had once sworn to free his friend from the horrors of captivity, the weight of betrayal and failure is unbearable. With the Federation's captain reveling in Marcel's suffering, Veno faces a choice: remain a passive observer of injustice or risk everything to save his best friend, even if it means defying his own kind. As the situation spirals out of control, a reluctant ally emerges in the form of the first officer, Rel, whose internal struggle between duty and compassion forces him to make a dangerous decision. In a world where survival often means forsaking empathy, will Veno and Rel's desperate actions be enough to save Marcel, or will they be doomed to watch as the galaxy's ruthless machinery grinds their hopes to dust? The clock is ticking, and every moment brings them closer to either freedom or total annihilation. The thought of living in a world without Marcel was unbearable. Despite everything that had transpired, he had become more than just an alien predator to me. He had become a long-lost brother, someone who shared the weight of my burdens and struggles. The harsh reality of what was about to unfold weighed heavily on my chest. After all, it seemed that his life was about to come to an end, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The helplessness gnawed at me, a feeling I could not escape. I had promised him that I would free him from this hell, yet it felt as though that promise was nothing more than a cruel lie. It was devastating to think that I had failed him. I thought I had more time, more opportunities to change the course of events. The Federation had held off on killing him for so long, and I had foolishly believed that I might be able to talk them down. But time had run out, and now I was standing there, unable to do anything as the cruel forces of fate decided his outcome. Sulin, the captain of the ship, was savoring the anguish on Marcel's face, mocking his helplessness. It was as though the captain wanted Marcel to fight back, just to give him one last show of resistance before the inevitable end. But Marcel was too far gone, too lost in his pain and exhaustion to muster the strength to respond. Sulin's cold smile widened as he tapped the gun against the human's nose, a sickening cracking sound following the gesture. There was no mercy in his eyes, no hesitation. He was resolute in his decision, determined to finish what he had started. But just as I thought it was over, just as I thought that Marcel's final moments would be reduced to a meaningless death, something inside me snapped. I couldn't let him die like this, not without trying one last time. I screamed, "Leave him alone!" Desperation surged through my veins, and I sank my teeth into Zan's arm, attempting to break free. My tiny claws scratched and scraped at his thick hide, but it was no use. Zan, the Tachyon guard, easily restrained me, dragging me farther away from the scene of impending death. The fight left me as quickly as it had come. The weight of helplessness drained my strength more than anything else. I could do nothing but watch as the doctor, Zan, and the captain stood by, indifferent to Marcel's suffering. The doctor chuckled darkly as if savoring the final moments of a condemned prisoner. It was this sickening gleam of callousness in his eyes that ignited the last remnants of my resolve. With all the force I could muster, I screamed again, struggling in vain to break free. It was clear that I was powerless, but I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. Marcel's suffering, his attempts to smile despite the agony, made it even harder to accept the inevitable. I wanted to believe there was still hope, but the grim reality of the situation pressed against me like an immovable wall. The situation took a sudden turn when the first officer, Rel, spoke. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Lower your weapon, Sovin, or I'll put you down with that thing." His words shattered the silence that had fallen over the room, and for a moment, I couldn't understand what was happening. I had assumed that the first officer would remain loyal to the captain, following orders without question, but his defiance caught me off guard. Rel had been a silent observer of the chaos up until now, but this moment signaled a shift in his allegiance. Sulin's expression morphed into one of fury, clearly shocked that anyone would dare defy him. His claws twitched around the gun, but Rel didn't flinch. Instead, he leveled his sidearm at the captain. It was clear now that Rel had made a choice that would have far-reaching consequences for all of us. The weight of his actions hung heavy in the air as he turned away from the captain, focusing on the humanity of the situation. He saw Marcel as a person, not just as a predator. And in that moment, everything changed. Rel's decision to stand up to the captain was not one made lightly. There was fear in his eyes, but there was also a deep, unspoken understanding that what was happening was wrong. He had witnessed the brutality of the Federation's treatment of Marcel, and he could no longer stand by and watch it unfold. There was a hesitation, a flicker of doubt in his mind, but he had crossed the threshold. The consequences of his actions were clear, and he had made a conscious choice to defy his orders. It wasn't just about saving Marcel's life anymore, it was about standing up for what was right. Rel's intervention had disrupted the cruel routine of the Federation's justice system. His betrayal of the captain was a statement that he would not be complicit in the systematic eradication of beings like Marcel. It was a statement that echoed through the cold corridors of the ship, reverberating in the hearts of everyone involved. In a single moment, Rel had become a symbol of defiance against the very system that had governed their lives. Despite the chaos, despite the looming threat of violence, there was a strange, quiet connection between Marcel and me. As Rel moved to restrain Sovin, Marcel's eyes locked with mine, and in that fleeting moment, I could see the depth of his pain and the flicker of hope that still lingered within him. Despite everything he had been through, despite the physical and emotional scars that marred his body, he still cared about me. His final act, his attempt to smile through the pain, made me question everything I thought I knew about humans. I had always seen Marcel as a predator, as a force of nature that was unstoppable, a being whose instincts drove him to survive at any cost. But now, in his final moments, I saw something else entirely. He was not just a creature of violence, he was a being capable of love, loyalty, and sacrifice. In the face of death, he still reached out to comfort me. In his eyes, I saw not just the predator who had fought for survival, but the human who had fought for something greater, something worth saving. As Rel wheeled Marcel away, I couldn't help but feel the weight of what we were doing. We were breaking the rules, defying the very system that had been put in place to keep us safe, to ensure the survival of our species. But at the same time, we were choosing something better, something more humane. We were choosing to stand by Marcel, to fight for his life, even when the odds were stacked against us. There was something deeply humbling about Marcel's final moments, something that transcended the violence and the brutality of the situation. It made me question everything I had believed in. The Federation had labeled him a monster, a threat to the safety of the galaxy. But in those moments, I saw a friend, a companion, someone who had fought alongside me through thick and thin. We had shared experiences, laughed, cried, and fought for a future we believed in. And now, it seemed like that future was slipping away. Rel's decision to save us didn't come without consequences. The first officer was torn, unsure of what to do next. The weight of his betrayal hung over him like a storm cloud, and for a brief moment, I wondered if he had second thoughts. Could he truly live with the consequences of his actions? Would the Federation forgive him for defying orders? Or would he be labeled a traitor, a criminal in the eyes of those he had once served? It was clear that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The Federation would not take kindly to Rel's actions, and the cost of this betrayal could be far-reaching. But there was no turning back now. There was a sense of urgency in the air, a need to get out, to escape before the Federation could respond. With each passing moment, we drew closer to freedom, but the uncertainty of the future loomed large. As we made our way to the shuttle, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Would we make it out alive? Could we truly escape the reach of the Federation, or would we be hunted down, forced to pay the price for defying the system? It was clear that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The Federation would not take kindly to Rel's actions, and the cost of this betrayal could be far-reaching, but there was no turning back now. There was a sense of urgency in the air, a need to get out, to escape before the Federation could respond. With each passing moment, we drew closer to freedom, but the uncertainty of the future loomed large. As we made our way to the shuttle, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Would we make it out alive? Could we truly escape the reach of the Federation, or would we be hunted down, forced to pay the price for defying the system? There was no way to know for sure, but one thing was certain. We were taking a risk that, if successful, would change everything. It would not only save Marcel's life, but would also challenge the very foundation of the Federation's beliefs. It would force them to confront the truth of their actions, the cost of their ideology, and the price of their mistakes. As Rel piloted the shuttle, I couldn't help but glance back at the ship we had just escaped from. The Federation, the system that had once been my home, was slipping away behind us, and with it, the life I had known. What lay ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time I felt hope. The kind of hope that comes from knowing that you've done the right thing, even when the consequences are unclear.